So we're just going to be documenting how we measure some of these lights. This is the RubyLux that I've got in my lamp. I've got my Radix Lupin flicker meter, Thunder Optics spectrometer, magnetic field milligauss meter, and then you can see it's plugged into the kilowatt, so I know how much power it's drawing. And that's going to be important when we do the review. So let's go turn this on. See, I got a nice lamp stand for it. So turn it on, it's got a nice color. And I'll turn on the flicker meter. And my overhead lights are super low flicker, and most of the power is coming from that, so it really won't matter. So you can see we get about 2% flicker from an incandescent bulb, another myth that we've been busting lately. So 2% flicker, you know, we can do better with an LED or whatever. Let's get up close. You know, you do get some magnetic field as well. But again, if you're going to be 6 inches away, 18 inches away, it's not going to matter. And then down here, let's look at this. 261 watts. So it's consuming 261 watts, even though, you know, they claim somewhere it's a 250 watt bulb. So it's kind of weird, maybe on their website. But, you know, they claim it's 250 watts, but why are they pulling 261? Maybe that's part of why they can claim they're a little bit more powerful than others, because it's not actually 250 watts. It's actually, 260. So I'm going to actually turn off the light for this next part. I'm going to take a look at the computer screen. This is my app for looking at spectrum, if it can focus. And then I'm going to do, we can see the spectrum. I just measured the GE bulb. And I'm going to press acquire. And then that's the spectrum for the RubyLux. So you can see, you know, we get a little bit starting at 600, that's a red, 700, 800, so it does peak maybe between 800, 850, and then it starts to drop down, and I can't see much more than 920 or whatever. So you see, it's pretty typical. If you saw the spectrum that was on there before, it's not much different than a GE bulb or whatever. So it's nothing too special about the spectrum itself. So there we have it. That's our test. So I'm going to document a couple more of these. This one is the Feit Electric incandescent bulb. You can find in most hardware stores. I got this one at Home Depot. Sometimes you can get them at Tractor Supply. I'm going to turn on the flicker meter first so you can verify my overhead light is super low flicker. It's the waveform lighting that I tell everyone to get. So let's turn this bad boy on. So you can see it jumps up to 2.2. So that's what we're getting on most of these incandescent lights. We're getting about 2%, 2.2. It's not too bad, but like I've said, we can do better with LED. We'll do the Thunder Optics in a second. Just going to check the magnetic field. I'm always curious. Almost 2 milligauss. I'm not trying to melt my magnetic field meter. That's why I put it there. And then the kilowatt says 261. So it's it's a little bit more powerful than 250. So again, it's kind of a similar power that the maybe the RubyLux was at. Now I'll turn off the light just for the spectrometer reading. So we have on the screen what was the RubyLux. Actually, I need to remember to save this. So I'm going to save it on my spreadsheet because I'm going to make a nice little chart later. And then I'm going to go back here and press acquire. And really not much change. You know, when we acquire, each incandescent bulb is going to be pretty similar. So this performs very similar to the RubyLux, you know, almost everything. So it's pretty crazy. Not much changed on the screen here. So that's a good thing, you know. You can get really cheap, you know, stuff because it's comparable to RubyLux at your local hardware store. All right, so that's it. So now we're looking at the Philips brand. It's a very popular brand. Also can find in most hardware stores. We're going to do flicker. Let's turn it on. Yeah, this one's again about 2%, 2.2, 2.3. So again, not too bad. They're all going to be about the same. This is going to start to get boring. We'll do electric field too for this one. I'm not going to do it for all because it has to do with your lamp. If your lamp is grounded, then your electric field's low. Yeah, so that's not too bad, but in my my big review, I'll show, you know, some lamps can be high electric field. So it's not the bulb's fault. It's going to be the lamp's fault. Magnetic field, you know, not too bad. You know, and then you're going to be a few inches away anyway, or 18 inches is what they recommend. 257 watts. So again, it's pretty good, pretty high watt. You know, they claim to be 250. So let's just look at the spectrum real quick. So this is the Fett Electric. Press acquire. So again, you see barely any change. So they're, you know, all the bulbs are going to be pretty much the same. You know, it's not going to matter. So yeah, that's it. So all these bulbs turn out to be pretty similar. So now we're looking at the Therabulb, another super popular bulb, you know, marketed specifically for incandescent therapy. Check the flicker. So it's about, yeah, 2.5%. Maybe it's a little bit more than some of the other ones. That's interesting. And again, I checked magnetic field just for fun, but yeah, it's going to drop off. We'll take a look at the watts, see how much power it's consuming. So 264. You know, it means it's a little bit more powerful than they advertise. They say it's 250, and then they sell you a 260 watt bulb. And maybe that's part of their gimmick, is they say, oh, our bulbs are more powerful. But really, they just sell you a higher wattage bulb to begin with. So, kind of funky. Let's look at the spectrum. Again, we got the Philips spectrum on here now. And let's see if there's any change. So it's interesting, you see this hump. It's almost like there's a little bit more of the visible light coming through, maybe with you know, what kind of coating they use. You get a little bit more visible light, you know, in the red. But then it's, you know, it's pretty much the same spectrum, so it's kind of a subtle difference, but they do have a little bit of something there. So that's it for the Therabulb. So is it worth, you know, the extra 20 bucks? Not sure. All right, we're gonna solve the big mystery about the Saunaspace Thermolight. Why does a light bulb cost over $100 to obtain, It costs $89.99 on their website, plus shipping. So why would you spend over $100 for an incandescent bulb? I don't know, but maybe we'll find out. But I already have a suspicion what the gimmick is, and we're going to figure it out real quick. So let's get started. Alright, we got a nice red color here. Check the flicker. You know, it does flicker. They've had a lot of posts and videos about how they think they have zero flicker because they use some silly test meter. So it does flicker, you know, 2.3%, almost the same as the rest. You can check the EMF real quick. Yeah, not too bad. And then we're going to check the wattage. And if you see what I see, it's 290 watts. That's a lot of power, a hell of a lot more power than they advertise of 250. And that's where they're claiming they've got some magical high power 250 watt bulb. It's not a high power 250 watt bulb. It's a 290 watt bulb that they trick you into thinking it's 250. 290 is a lot more power. You could overheat your lamp stand, you could overheat your skin, you know, you got to know what you're dealing with, not add an extra 40 watts onto something. Anyway, let's look at the spectrum. They said they've got some special spectrum. Here we've got the Therabulb, and I'm going to do an acquire here. And really not much difference from the Therabulb. You know, if you saw that transition, there wasn't much change. So you're paying $100 to be lied to about the wattage. It's definitely going to have more power because it's 40 more watts. You know, it's not, first off, it's not right, and it might not even be safe. And it's not really much different. It's just a, you know, misappropriated incandescent bulb that performs the same as all the other ones I just tested. So there we go. Mystery solved. Alright, so I might as well just do them all like this for documentation. Got the GE heat lamp. Again, super common, easy to find almost everywhere. Check the flicker. Turn it on. Flicker is 2.1. Somehow maybe a bit lower than the others, but you know, not too bad. But you know, I would just say they're all about 2%. Let's do EMF real quick, just for fun. Just trying to see if there's anything that stands out between them, but they've all been about the same. And let's check the power. 236. So it's interesting, the GE bulbs are actually a little bit underpowered. This is actually the second bulb I've gotten from GE, and they're a little bit underpowered, about 240 when they say they're 250. So it's interesting, a little bit of less power, but somehow also less flicker. I don't know. Anyway, let's look at the spectrum real quick. Focus. This was Sauna Space, so you see it, you know, it kind of flattened it out, so it's kind of got a gradual curve starting at, you know, just under 600 and then going gradual, and then, you know, it's pretty similar to the rest of them. So yeah, nothing too shocking here. The bulb looks good. So yeah, maybe a little underpowered, or the GEs, otherwise performs pretty similar. Okay, this should be my last one. It's the Producer's Pride, I think from Tractor Supply. Comes in a 2-pack here. Let's go through it. Now you can't tell in the video, but it does seem much more orangey, more yellow, and you know, you'll get more brightness out of it. It's got almost a little bit higher flicker than the rest. But again, 2 to 3%, that's not much. We can check, since we're doing it for everyone. Interesting, maybe the magnetic field is a little higher on this one somehow. And then the power is 272, so it's a bit higher, a bit more power. It's interesting that I'm not sure if it's some variation between bulbs, or some tend to be higher, some tend to be lower, but that's going to directly correlate to your output. That's why I'm not measuring intensity, because we don't have the right test meters to measure intensity. You're going to know your power just from the consumed wattage, because incandescent bulbs, that's just how they work. They consume power and they emit the radiation. So let's just look at the spectrum real quick. Now, I expect this part of the spectrum to come up a little bit, where the yellow is. Yeah, so we got a little bit of jump up of yellow, and then overall, the same kind of spectrum, but maybe a little bit more in the yellow. That's what makes it appear more bright, and maybe it's going to be a little bit more harsh on your eyes. So that's it. That's the producer's pride in, a 2-pack, your local Tractor Supply. It's a pretty good deal. Okay.